Afternoon, everybody. My name's Adrian Smythe. It's nice to have a small group of people today because it's less pressure. I have delighted actually to be able to be given an opportunity to speak at the Boatfolk stand again this year. So we spoke last year. Delighted to have been invited back. In fact, we'll be given 2 speaker slots this year, mainly because I asked, but I'm hoping that what I'll share with you today is actually quite useful and people see the value in it. So I run this organization called Sailing Sibongile, and what we're about is that we're a sailing initiative and we take people sailing for free as part of a mental health initiative. So generally developing overall health, well-being, a little bit of community spirit. So Sibongile itself is a Zulu word. It was my mum's nickname, and I'll explain in a minute where that came from. But Sibongile means we are grateful. So in Zulu culture, they very often give names that are desirable characteristic, and this one is links to gratitude. So we sort of obviously tapped into that to help promote mental health. So like I said, my name's Adrian Smythe. I've been sailing for about 5 years. Prior to that, I pretty much grew up on the beach surfing, windsurfing, water skiing, and generally being around the water in boats. I was a good swimmer as a kid. But life's moved on. I've got 2 kids now, 2 teenagers, and any parents of teenagers will empathize. That's not easy. You can send your donations in later. I don't do this full time. I have a full-time job as well as an IT project manager, so I implement major systems for big companies. My passion, however, is human behavioral biology, so I'm sort of really keen to understand how people tick, what makes us behave the way that we behave. Say that again? Oh, cool. Well, we can nerd out on it a little bit after the talk. That'll be great. So, so as a species, I can tell you we're very weird. But about 5 years ago, maybe more, 2019, I lost my mum to depression. Like I said, her name was Sibongile. She did a lot of outreach work within communities, developing leadership skills, managerial skills, public speaking skills from young kids all the way through to people who are coming into the managerial space. Obviously, the political climate in South Africa changed. But anyway, so her nickname amongst the Zulu community was Sibongile, so we tapped into that. So what I'll share with you today is what we do, how we take people sailing, how it came about. Well, I've just sort of mentioned that. Then the kind of messages that we promote as part of Sailing Sibongile and the sort of wider sort of social media side of what we do, and then how to get involved, where we're going as an organization, and what's on the roadmap, and like I said, how people can get involved. So where we started was actually quite a while ago, so just after, actually right at the start of COVID, actually lockdown, I bought my first little sailboat, little Hurley 22, and I thought, hell, this is great, and so upgraded, and then I got this westerly Berwick, and being a divorcee, it was very often me and my kids, or just me, and so I started inviting people along to come sailing with me, just as crew, and sharing the experience. And I'll show you some of the pictures of people that have come sailing with us. So that's where we started. We've still got that boat. As part of the experiences, say that again? A westerly Berwick, 1974. So in fact, when I was looking for this, I wanted a boat under 10 meters, a ketch, bilge keel with a wheel, and a westerly. I wanted to stay within the westerly band. The first boat that I found was this one. And then it happened to be built in the same year I was born, so it was kind of poetic. So anyway, so we still got that. So as part of the development of what we did, I wanted to start inviting mixed gender crews, maybe young families, and so we decided to upgrade to a Moody 42. That's essentially got 2 parts to the boat. The forward compartment's got its own heads, and that can be entirely private. And then the deck saloon actually creates a lot of livable space as well. So that's with us at the moment, and then last year we acquired this. This is a Holman & Pye Super Sovereign 42, and the ambition with this is a few things actually. We're hoping to partner with a crazy skipper who's keen to do 2 back-to-back solo circumnavigation races, so the Global Solo Challenge and the Golden Globe race in succession. It's a big ask. It requires quite a sizable commitment from both sides. But that's one of the ideas with that. I'll get on to one of the other things that we're hoping to use this boat for in a sec. But the whole idea with that is it's going to be longer offshore passages and more adventure cruising and racing. So what we promote as part of Sailing Sibongile falls into your sort of typical categories. We buy very big into the neurochemistry of happiness, so things like dopamine, serotonin, endorphins, and all those kind of wonderful feel-good hormones. We try and make sure that we balance off those kinds of things with cortisol and adrenaline and all the stuff that can stress you out, and sort of make sure that people are enjoying them in equal measure. So what we believe in is that one of the biggest things that you can do to promote good mental health and overall happiness is be part of something that's bigger than you are. So for me, that's Sailing Sibongile. Actually, interestingly, one of the most effective combats against depression is actually being religious. It ticks a whole bunch of boxes, but also things like being part of a sports team. If you are part of a football club, obviously that's something that's bigger than you are. You're also hanging out with people who have common interests and lift you up. So again, neurochemistry of that, it's called oxytocin, the love drug. And generally speaking, typically when you're hanging out with people who lift you up, you're also doing things that will allow you to do things today that you reap the reward of at some point in the future. And so sailing is very much like that. We're obviously doing a lot of stuff this year. We're going through the winter to reap the rewards of in the summer, obviously in sailing season, with things like gardening. Also, you're planting and planting and preparing soil, etc. This year, hopefully, you're going to harvest at some point in the future. One of the, in addition to people who are religious, one of the demographics that have the lowest incidence of mental health issues are gardeners. So I think sailors, we're a grumpy bunch, so you take the good with the bad, and so sometimes you're really happy and sometimes less so. So I think sailing also allows you to eventually sometimes step out of your comfort zone. You do stuff that makes you uncomfortable, whether it's cold or just generally, you've maybe sort of done something that's a little bit challenging, had to do a man overboard, a live one, not just a drill. Speak from experience, I've been there. And so sometimes those kind of things really sort of make you appreciate life a little bit more. And also, again, neurochemistry, dopamine, serotonin, all that kind of stuff. So when you step out of your comfort zone, you've achieved something good, that's where the neurochemistry comes in. And then the other thing that we promote, and this is where people kind of lose track a little bit, is don't be too hard on yourself. Not every day is good, not every day is bad. Sometimes you'll have a bad day. I have days where I'm completely just flawed. I can't see, hope with anything. But you just sort of accept those things, and kind of mooch around the house and mope and stuff. The next day you wake up, feel better. And so I think it's really, really important to be kind to yourself and not give yourself too much of a hard time. And that's one of the big messages when people are starting to feel down. It's just like, yeah, you're entitled to feel down today. Tomorrow you feel better. It's a natural course of things. Right, so when we got the Moody 42, one of the things that I was quite keen to do, because this is a community initiative, we take people sailing for free, was get as many people involved in getting that boat ready as possible. And so this we've actually got written on the keel, both sides. So these are all the people who were involved in getting Sibongile ready a couple of years ago, or 3 years ago now. We're coming up for the point where we're needing to repaint the bottom, because it's a self-polishing and copper-based anti-foul. And so we refresh it every 3 years. And so unfortunately, we might have to paint over that. We're going to see what it looks like. So it's the second time in 3 years that she's going to be hauled out. And so we'll see what she looks like. Maybe we can just paint around the outside and keep the Sibongile bit. So on the other side, what we did amongst those people is we brainstormed and we trying to work out all the things that we think essentially signify good mental health, happiness, overall well-being. And these are all the words that we came up with. We got things like family, compassion, recovery, mindfulness, friendship, nature, growth, empathy, all those kind of stuff. And then we try to work out which one of all of those things we think really speaks to what it takes to be truly resilient and have good well-being. And the one that we chose was fortitude. And in fact, so this name here means gratitude, and that one means fortitude. And there's actually poems over the years. There's a strong relationship between how gratitude drives fortitude and vice versa. And there's literature and poetry and all sorts of stuff that's been written on the relationship between those things. This contribution was my daughter. She was one of the reasons why we started where we did Sailing Sibongile the way that it is today. In fact, originally it was called Sailing with a Weirdo, because I explained to her one day, we couldn't come up with a name. I explained to her what we were trying to achieve. I said, we're trying to come up with a name, what do you think? And having been very bemused that she got dragged out of her room to be asked such a dull question, she said, call it Sailing with a Weirdo, and turned around and walked off. So yeah, so for the first 2 or 3 years, that was what we were called, Sailing with a Weirdo, and then decided to change the focus to be a little bit more community focused, and then adopted Sailing Sibongile. So I mentioned on the previous one, this point here about dream, talk, plan, and do a little bit every day. So what I've got here is when I started sailing and I got through to end of my first year, I decided, well, okay, now that I've got this, right, and what am I going to do with it? Because I used to be a racer. So after swimming, I turned to cycling. I used to be a racer. And it was really good to be able to look at the racing season and be able to train and plan and look forward. And so I thought, well, what am I going to do with this? What what's out there? What's on the horizon? And I decided, well, what's bigger than doing a circumnavigation? So worked out when I could do it, and it was about 10 years. And I thought, well, that's great. 0 to 10 years to do a circumnavigation, get myself ready, get the boat ready, all that kind of stuff. So this image here is Tahiti, and most of you, especially you Antipodeans, will know where that is. So, and the reason I chose this is more or less exactly 180 degrees on the other side of the planet from here. So on that passage there, this is exactly on the other side of the world. And the logic being that if we get there, you have to get home, and that takes you all the way around. That's the logic. But nevertheless, I think these images as anchor points that you can put up and you can aspire to, dream to, it helps anchor you to the things that you dream about. So these are some of the people that we've encountered along the way. So this bunch here, that's an American outfit called Skeleton Crew Adventures. They work specifically with military veterans. The chap who started it, this guy here, Taylor Grieger, had a really bad experience. He left the army, got a bit dull. Did something that could have been really stupid, but ultimately it didn't work. So pulled the trigger when click, didn't work, and that frightened him into really, really wanting to do something. And so he runs this organization called Skeleton Crew Adventures, and in the time that they've been running, through their program, they've not lost a single veteran. So I met them at the start of the Ocean Globe Race. They asked me to help them with general awareness and fundraising and stuff. And so hopefully what I did made a bit of a difference. Good bunch of guys. So this guy here, Jake, lives in my hometown and neurodiverse and a whole range of things that he struggles with. But I'd been nagging him for years to come out on the boat, and he's like, never. He's always too busy, or there's this reason or that reason. Eventually, he did come out, and that's the smile on his face from coming out sailing with, and having some time on the water. This chap here, another friend of mine, we met through Sailing Sibongile. Turns out he was at school with me on the other side of the planet. So when I met Daniel, he was off work due to stress. He'd been signed off for 6 months. About 3 months into that, he decided to go back to work. So he'd obviously feeling better well enough just by being part of something and hanging out with people that you've got something in common with, and decided to go back to work early. So he's now doing really, really well. He's fixing up his own boat, and we don't see enough of each other, but again, doing really, really well. This guy here, Nick, his story is super interesting, and he's a hell of a nice guy. And Nick and I pretty much became instant friends. So Nick's story is he's ex-army, and having retired from the army, he sort of fell into a pattern of going pub to pub, bar to bar. And his wife, long-suffering Anna, was always finding him in a bar, trying to sort of go from pub to find out where he was, dragging him out, and then encouraged him to start doing something else. And said, well, the army had a fleet of Halberg Rassies, and Nick used to sail on the Halberg Rassies. And she said, well, why don't you go find someone to go sailing with? And he was sort of very forlorn, saying, who the hell am I going to go? Who's going to take me sailing? And then she found one of the Sailing with a Weirdo posts on Facebook. She said, well, give this guy a call and see if he can go sailing. And so he's now teetotal, gave up the booze entirely. The two of them are doing really well. He's gone out and bought his own boat. And again, likewise, you know, we don't see nearly enough of each other. But he's been sailing with me a lot. Really good guy. And so, you know, again, getting out, spending time with people that lift you up, doing something that's out of your comfort zone, having something that you can do today that you reap the reward of in the future, tremendously, tremendously useful. So that's pretty much the message that we promote. So I mentioned a second ago about the Super Sovereign 35, one of the initiatives that we're launching actually at the boat show. We launched it on Friday at the first talk. Is this Sisters of Sibongile. And so what this is it's a ladies-only sailing initiative. And so we're partnering with a female skipper, yachtmaster, who will from time to time take Sibongile out. So this boat has been renamed to Sibongile, so she'll be the flagship of the fleet. And so they'll take her out, where a female skipper with a female crew, and they can do mile building, and they can do training and sort of general experiences without necessarily having a male skipper on board. And you know, it's so if anybody wants to find out more about that, by all means come and see me after the show, or find us on Facebook. And then the other ways that people can get on board. So I mentioned that Sisters of Sibongile. So that's really one of the parts of what we do. So the first arm of what we do is the sailing operations, so the physical sailing. So if people want to get involved, come sailing, right? It will always be, for all eternity, getting involved with Sailing Sibongile will be free, right? We don't charge, we take people sailing for free. So we promote the opportunities to come and crew on the Facebook page, and so first number one way to get involved is physically come sailing with us. The other way, if what we've covered today resonates with you, share what we've covered today. Point people in our direction, point them at the Facebook page if people just want to live vicariously through, you know, enjoy the experience through what we share on Facebook. You know, there's a lot of people that do that. You know, and then I think we're at the point now, we're approaching about 10,000 odd people that follow us through various social media channels. And so I think we're at the point now where we can sort of give something back in terms of a commercial relationship. We're talking to some sailmakers and a new rigger. Some of the plans that we've had were affected by a rigger that we had a poor experience with. So we're looking for a new rigger, but we are in talks. And then sort of obviously general maintenance and equipment and those kinds of things. I get asked frequently about getting involved financially and sponsorships. Can people donate? What we do is what I'm trying to do is essentially create a merchandise arm, so that it's not just an out-and-out donation. If somebody wants to get involved, then they can buy something from our eBay store, or something along that nature. In the future, we're going to incorporate this as a community interest company, and then to look at funding options. But nevertheless, getting involved, coming and sailing for the crew will always be free. Right. So the other way to get involved, and this is something I'm super excited about, is this Global Skippers Network. And so I mentioned the Skeleton Crew Adventures, and so through the work that we've done in the social media side of our initiative, we have met a huge number of people, got inquiries from a lot of places, from Port Townsend, obviously around the UK, Europe, South Africa, Kuala Lumpur, Australia. So we've got a number of people who follow our model already. Right, so what we're looking to provide is essentially a framework for people to do the same thing that we do here, within that framework that we've already done and established for the last 5 years. So what comes with that are things like a code of conduct, policies and procedures around protecting the vulnerable, but generally speaking, they'll be part of a community that they can sort of share experience with, ask how to deal with difficult situations, how to deal with certain neurodiverse issues, and those kind of things. Obviously, the most important thing is that we're not looking to provide a counseling service. It's not that kind of thing. It's just really just private people giving back into the community in the same way, following the same model that we do. The cost of this, same with all the other things, there's no cost. It is free to become a member of the Skippers Network. Well, it's free in so much as you need to own your own boat, and so nothing is ever free, truly, when you get into boating. But yeah, so provided somebody has their own boat, whether it's a sailboat, a rib, or a fishing boat, or whichever way, shape, or form they want to get involved, the Skippers Network is there for them to become a part of. And if anybody wants to find out more about that, I can provide you with the email address that you can email in. We can go through the process and just get onboarding and providing you with what's needed. So, like I said, we're tremendously excited about this initiative, and we think that because across the 3 boats, even if we sailed 5 days a week, we can only really reach somewhere between 600 and 700 people that can physically come sailing with us on any given year. Whereas with this, we can obviously multiply that exponentially and use sailing as a mechanism, a real vehicle for promoting good mental health and well-being. So yeah, so that's what we do. That's Sailing Sibongile. Like I said, if anybody wants to get involved, reach out to me. And if anybody would like to, what I've got for anybody who has enjoyed today's presentation is we've got some of these caps, these Sailing Sibongile caps. They are very good. They don't have the little clip to keep them on your collar, but the little metal thing at the back is 316 stainless steel, so it's not going to rust. It'll survive offshore. This one's about 1.5 years old, so it's still looking all right. So yeah, like I said, anybody wants to get involved, come and see me after the show if you want a hat. Likewise, come and see me.